Hello and welcome to another tutorial video. Today's video is on rendering silhouettes quickly for presentation. In a previous video we made some silhouettes of these mechs just to really show the power of digital tools. So today we're going to be continuing with that, and you can see the first thing I do is start with a quick gradient wash from top to bottom. I've locked the pixels in. If you look to the right you can see the little lock button next to the layer that I'm on. And I really just start there to get a base and just start laying in your values. Now, so yeah, after I lock the pixels in and get the values set, I might go in and turn that off like I just did there. But this is still not a final, so you don't want to go crazy with the details. You can see I'm still not zooming in a whole lot yet. And we're also really sticking with a very basic lighting scheme, basically just coming straight down from above. This is just something to make your presentation look a little bit more interesting because a lot of people can't really make out a form, whereas if you just look at a silhouette it gives you a good form, but you couldn't really like hand that off to someone and say, okay, make something with this, because they don't know what else is in there. So this kind of breaks it down, and a good modeler could probably even take this and maybe model from it. They probably wouldn't, but so here I'm just starting to cut in some details, and I'm just, once I've made that gradient, so I have some lights and some darks and everything in between, I'm really just selecting color from the local area, going in and cutting in details. And the idea here is to get nice contrast from light and darks and try to get as much of the full range from 0 to 10. Now you can see I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more. You can see it's at 100%, it's still pretty messy because I'm still going to be presenting these fairly small. So here I'm just adding in some details in some areas, thinking about that 70-30 rule that we talked about in the previous video, where I want to have areas that are busy with little bits of detail, and then areas that are really big and smooth, so that your eyes have places to dance around on the design. And really, I don't really know exactly what this thing looks like. I'm kind of letting the silhouette guide the design. Like I just had a little circle mark there when I started, and I ended up making this piece there, and just kind of adding things in here and there and having fun with it. Again, like I said earlier, this is still not final, so we don't want to go crazy with the details. Now, I use a couple of different tools when it comes to this. One is just a really soft brush set on low opacity. You can see sometimes it's like 20%. And to brighten areas, I'll put it on screen and to start bringing it up, and then sometimes I'll put it on multiply to darken other areas. You could also use the dodge and burn. I don't mind using the dodge and burn tool when it's in grayscale, but when you have color it starts to do some funky things, and you really have to have a better understanding of how it works. But in grayscale you can get away with it. Again, I'm still getting in details in here, cutting in some little pieces to add. And you can see now already I've got some really bright whites and then some really dark darks. Here I'm doing this again, just adding a gradient while the pixels are locked. And this is why it's important to have a silhouette that is fairly made with a fairly solid brush, so that you have some hard edges. If you go in there and you make a design with a light brush, or excuse me, just like a texture brush is what I'm trying to say, you're gonna get some some added things, but it may be more challenging to go in and fill in. So again, I'm just blocking in some areas, utilizing the local values, and just kind of sculpting in that leg to make it fit the other one, kind of balance things out a little bit. You can see my first task is just blocking in a base color. I know that the top sections and the armor of the legs are a little bit lighter in color, so or in value, so I'm kind of blocking those in. Now I'm cutting in some details. Now I'm going to start actually working with light a little bit. You can see I'm softening that up. Now I'm cutting in some really dark darks, almost all the way to pure black now. You really want to get a full range of values to draw people in, especially when you're working with such a small piece. They don't have the ability to zoom in, so it's got to look interesting to them from a distance. So now what I'm using is a lasso tool, where this is a really fun and handy tool, again, that's great for digital. But I just lasso in an area and then either use a gradient wash or a soft brush tool to just slowly lighten that area up. And it really gives some nice control. It's kind of like masking an area off with, you know, like if you do a watercolor or something. And see, now I have these hard edged spots along with soft edge spots. It's kind of painting in a few more pieces. There really aren't any rules here. I don't know what this thing looks like. I'm making it up as I go, and I'm kind of just letting the design determine what I'm doing. And I still want to lighten that up a little bit. It's looking pretty good. Okay. A couple little details here and there, some highlights, adding in a couple little pure white spots, you know, just dabbing them in here and there. Some more details. Okay. Again, I'm just using a soft round brush on opacity. Now, I usually do this thing you just saw me do there was adjusting the levels, just to make sure that I'm pushing it to my pure whites and my pure blacks. All right, one last one here. Same thing. Just do a gradient wash while the pixels are locked. I'm starting to block in the local areas. And you really want to keep this loose and have fun. Like I said, these are not final. If someone likes this, if you present these and you're like, oh, I really like that one, you're going to go back in, you're going to redraw it, you're going to use perspective, you're going to put it in more of a dynamic pose so we can see the front and the side and the top, or maybe, you know, if we want it more dynamic, maybe we're looking at it from below. And you're going to spend a lot more time on it. I only spend about 15 minutes adding these values to each one of these. And then I sped this up about 3-4 times for this video. So it's not something you want to, you know, spend all day on, because it's just an idea. You know, it's just we're just taking this idea and making it more presentable to a client or to the art director, because a silhouette doesn't tell us quite enough. It does give us a good form, but it doesn't really tell us, you know, how this thing might be functioning. So again, here I'm just blocking in more details. I just used the marquee tool to make another circle, and then that gives me the ability to paint inside the circle and make sure I have a hard, crisp edge. Utilizing that lasso technique again to get hard edges mixed with soft edges. And what that is basically is like when you look at anything that's hard surface, there's areas that round off, and then there's really sharp edges where it cuts off. And then just trying to create that illusion there. You can see on this piece that sticks out to the side right there that I'm working on, that because I have a soft edge that's coming, closest to us, it gives the illusion that it's sort of like a wing that's coming right out at us, even though it's from the side view. Changing out my eraser tool because I was playing with the eraser to make those cool background textures you see on the other one. Again, notice how small I'm working on this. It's not something you want to zoom into. It's just I'm looking at this and saying, how does this read? Does this look balanced? Does it look like it's dark enough in the dark places? Do all the little areas read well? So again, you can see I'm using the levels to make that read a little bit better. Drop it in my background, and now we're going to add a little spot of color and have a little fun with adding some color. To do that, I make a new layer and put it on color, and then if you hold down the Alt button in between the two layers, it will lock the pixels to the layer below. You can see me doing that right there. So I'm just adding a little bit of a military green, but when you're using color, it's just, there's really no change in variance, it's just the color. But now I'm going to make it more interesting by adding a complementary light source and putting little lights and bits here and there, and that just makes it again more interesting to look at. Alright, and I'm doing this on another new layer, and I'm using the dodge or the color dodge brush, and again with the light brush set on really low opacity. You can see my settings up above. Now I'm going to jump over to this one where we've added more of a bronze finish. Now I want the lights to complement that, so I'm going to sort of a teal green sort of light motif here. With the dodge tool, or the color dodge brush, the more that you press on it, the brighter and more vibrant it gets. In a lot of these areas, I'll hit that soft brush underneath an edge and then go back with the eraser and erase out above it. Now we're going to do this last one. I'll wash this with kind of a bluish green, and then complement that with this cool violet. It's probably my favorite one just because I like the color scheme. It's very high-tech feeling. Alright, so that's about wrapping up this video. This is just a quick way to make your silhouette stand out. So again, don't put too much time in it. Have fun. Keep the lighting simple, and then you can touch it up with some little light spots and make it really interesting. Just remember that you have a strong contrast between lights and darks so that it reads really well from a distance. So you can see even from a distance those read really well. Alright, have fun. See you next time.